Hi again, here's Tu from RTG. Today I'm going to tell you a bit about what products we produce at our own factory in Portugal. I'm going to go through different product groups and I'm going to tell a bit about why they're different and then later on go in details with each product group. I'm also going to talk a bit about the different fabrics that we use and what is important in terms of trim, labels, buttons, different fabrics, different print techniques. So in general, just a rough idea about what kind of products are these and what should you be aware of when you want to produce things like this. So at RTG we produce for many different clients. One of the clients has been so kind to let us show some of their pieces from an old collection so you guys can see what we can actually do. But also I can use it to explain the different product groups and what you should be aware of when you do production. All these products that you see here are made in Portugal. Now we split them in different product groups. We have the t-shirts, Piquet styles, we have sweatshirts, shirts and some jackets. Many brands start out with a few t-shirts or sweatshirts. Why? Because it's easy. It's simple to sell, it's simple to produce, and it's a product group or product groups that people use a lot. They are easy to handle, and with a few fits you can actually do a very nice collection. You can change your printing, the fabrics, trim, whatever, but you can do a lot of things to make the pieces interesting. Let's start looking at different t-shirts. If we look at this one, it's a simple white t-shirt. It's a 100% cotton t-shirt. I prefer 100% cotton t-shirt over polyester t-shirts if I can. I would say sometimes polyester makes sense, maybe if you want to do a melange color where you get this like texture or small differences in color. This one is white, it's simple, it could have been navy, it could have been any other color. One of the things with 100% cotton is that it allows you to also do organic products, which I think is very nice and I think will be the future of clothing. Here they have a small label, neck label and a hang tag. The hang tag includes sizing, colors, style number, everything. So important as well. All these items tell about the identity of the brand. So I would always recommend that you do a lot of work and get a strong identity and a good design in your labeling, in your trim, in your buttons if it's shirts. Because it's what's going to carry a lot of the product. Then you have the print. There are so many brands doing printed t-shirts and there are different ways of printing. This one is a simple, what I would call a normal print. You've seen it everywhere. It's a print, it's not too plastic, you can feel it a bit, and it's a very good technique just for simply making a standard printed t-shirt. On a white it covers very nicely. If it was a black t-shirt you might see the black slightly through the t-shirt, through the print, but it's a nice technique to use. Then we have photo prints. This print technique will allow you to do t-shirts with images on. There are different techniques to do it, but this one is a quite simple one. It's just a photo print with a few colors, but it will allow you to do something that is different than just a regular one color or two color print. Again, you need to always remember to do the different design characteristics for your brand. Maybe a different neck tape, neck label again. The next t-shirt is what we would call a transfer print. Here you have a print that is not printed directly on the t-shirt, but it's printed on like a transfer paper and then it's heated on the t-shirt. That's why you will see like a slightly different look. It feels like the print is on top of the t-shirt. It costs more or less the same as the other prints, except for the photo print, which is maybe 50% more than to do this kind of print. If you're not so much into printed t-shirts, maybe stripes can be an idea. The thing with striped t-shirts is that you can do the design you want. You can put more colors if you want. You can design it just the way you want it. there's just one thing to consider. First of all, you need to make sure that the manufacturer that is doing the product is very good. Because with stripes, you will see if they are not cutting the things straight. So imagine this stripe were down here and they were cutting half the stripe, for example. So the stripe needs to be aligned with the edge of the product, of course. Another thing with striped t-shirts that in some cases makes it a bit difficult for some brands is the minimum. The thing is, you need to order a lot of meters to be able to develop your own stripes. Whereas for solid colors, you can order, let's say 500 meters, but you can dye them in different colors. With stripes, you can't. The stripe comes out of the machine like this. So you need to put the different yarns in the machine to make it look like this. So this is made up of white and green yarn. So you can't do anything about it after that. So maybe you would have to order 300 or 500 meters of fabric just to be able to do striped t-shirts. So for stripes, minimums are higher. Let's move on to the next product group. The next product group is Piquet. It's not really a product group like t-shirts or sweatshirts. I more put the styles together because of the fabric. The fabric Piquet is the fabric that you know from polos, but you can use it for lots of different things. And there's so many good manufacturers in Portugal doing Piquet styles. It's a bit more expensive than t-shirts, but of course the client would want to pay more for a Piquet style than a simple cotton t-shirt. Here is something of a classic polo as a patch on the chest. A patch is a small thing that is developed not on the product directly, but apart. So we would buy lots of patches in different designs and then we can apply them later on. We also have the buttons with small logos. I say that's a very nice detail for a brand, not just to have the labels here and here, but to actually have buttons with their logos on. One thing to notice about Piquet styles is that usually they have rib, but the rib here is not a folded rib like it is on a t-shirt, and the rib is a bit more expensive than normal rib. That's why a polo, when it looks like this, will be a bit more expensive than a t-shirt, but it's a nice garment. Portugal is very known for doing lots of Piquet, lots of polos, but polos is not the only thing you can do with Piquet. Here's a long sleeve t-shirt. I think it's a nice alternative to a classic long sleeve t-shirt. When you do Piquet styles, it's not much more difficult than it is to do a t-shirt. Just be aware of the price, just be aware of the different Piquet types there are, but just say you want a nice Piquet, and usually, if it's Portugal, you will end up with a very nice product. Let's talk about the next product group, sweatshirts. Just like t-shirts, it's one of those product groups that lots of young brands will start out with. It's easy, you can do lots of things that will make your sweatshirt very nice, but it's still quite simple. Let's take a look at this first sweatshirt. I think it's a very nice, simple sweatshirt, but it's actually a mix of two fabrics. We have a simple cotton fabric here, and we have a cotton twill up here. I think it gives a nice effect, but it's still very, very simple. Again, important with trim, embroideries, labels, and the hang tag in here. Here they put a different contrast in the neck tape. It's an easy detail, it doesn't cost anything because they're gonna apply a neck tape anyway. Sometimes you see products, also t-shirts without neck tape, but it is a nicer finish if you ask for a neck tape. It doesn't cost that much, so go for it. The next sweatshirt I want to show you is this one. It doesn't have any prints, it doesn't really have any embroideries, but it just has this nice detail of an application across the chest and sleeves. Very simple. Again, a simple cotton fabric, 300 grams. It's not brushed on the back, that means that it will not get this soft feeling. Sometimes you see products that have a soft back. It's actually the same fabric, but they just brushed it on the back to get it softer and make it feel heavier. It doesn't cost anything, so if you prefer that, always remember to let your supplier know. Next sweatshirt. It's one of my favorites, this one, because it has an application. It's a patch that's actually applied on the front. So it's no print, no embroideries, but a patch. This fabric is not a 100% cotton. It could have been a 100% cotton, but it has a bit of polyester. It has a bit of polyester to make this effect of the different tones, the black, the white, the dark gray. The next sweatshirt is this one. It looks very simple, but it's actually not that easy to do. It's easy to do the sweatshirt itself and the fit and everything. But here is the fabric. The fabric is a special fabric because it has these small black dots, which is not so easy to find as a solid black fabric where you can buy a lot of meters and you can split them in different colors and dye them. Here you would have to develop the fabric like this from the start. So you would have a higher minimum of fabric when you need to order it. So when you're doing your sweatshirt line, consider how many times you can use the same fabric different places in the collection. Here's a hoodie that I like a lot. It has some different things on it that is not that usual. Here you have a line which is actually the neck tape from the other sweatshirts. So it still has the neck tape up here, but they use the design and the neck tape here. So when you produce things, when you design things, try and figure out what else you're using in the collection and try and use the things other places to make nice details. Because this doesn't really cost that much, but if you only used it here, you would have a problem getting this specific fabric because it's a very small piece. So always consider to use your fabrics more places in your collection. This one is a very interesting detail because there are many brands that start out producing through local printers or local embroidery houses. They go back home and they buy a blank t-shirt or a blank sweatshirt and they do a print on it or an embroidery. But that would actually not be possible with this detail. The reason why is on one side you see it, on the other you don't. So this embroidery is actually made before they put the hood together. So you can only do this if you're doing the garment from the start. If you're making everything from scratch. You cannot buy a blank hoodie and then do it in embroidery because you would see the embroidery go all the way through. I can show you an example here where you can actually see the back of an embroidery. So the back would have looked like this if you had done this on a blank finished product from the start. That's one of the reasons why I would suggest all brands that once you start, as soon as you can, do real production in a country where they can actually make your garments from the start. I know there's an issue with quantities and how much should you produce. That's why in the beginning, choose a country like Turkey, Portugal, maybe Italy, because the quantities are low. You can get your designs and it's quite simple to get started. You will pay a bit more maybe for some things until you get a higher level of quantity, but until then you can get your design, your ideas made. So let's talk about the different shirts you can do. All these shirts are done in Portugal. Portugal is very famous for its flannel, its heavy oxfords, its nice thick garments. If we start with something that is actually completely different, it's a simple all over printed shirt. This one is digitally printed, so you can get whatever pattern you want. It is a bit expensive because you have to buy the fabric and then you have to print on it. But it's a very nice piece. And with digital print, you don't have so high minimums. So you can actually do a few shirts, not a few, but you can do maybe 100 shirts. This one I think is very nice because they use the trimming very nice. They have labels again, they have buttons with logos, and they have a label here. And they have the kind of what they would say probably their signature label on the side. So always remember to add something that makes your product unique. Especially when we move on to the next shirt. This shirt is a classic Oxford. Imagine it was all white and you didn't have the labels, the buttons with logos, or the neck labels. Then it would be without any branding or any identity. So I would always say focus on the details. because on shirts you don't have that many things you can do. You can print them if you want, but it's not that weird. It's not that common. On shirts you don't have that many possibilities, or at least people are not using all the possibilities that there are. Because for shirts you don't see that many prints on them. So for shirts it's a lot about the fabric. So doing shirts is not just about finding the right supplier or the right place to do your shirts. You also need to find a place where you can actually find nice fabrics. So you would have to do it in a country or an area where there are factories that do fabric for shirts. For example, this one is from Portugal. In Portugal there's a very nice company that do lots of different fabrics. So most brands would go there and they would look at all these books and decide the different fabrics that they want to use. So you don't actually develop your own fabric. Here in this one, you would do your own print and print it. But for these kinds of shirts, you go and you buy the fabric. Maybe you can do your own colorway. You can also design your own fabric if you really want to, but then the minimums are very high. The last shirt, again, an example of a classic, or this is a bit more heavy than a classic Oxford. But again, nice detail with the pocket labeling. Also, one of the things that they are very good at in Portugal. The last product group I'm going to talk about for now are jackets. These jackets are all made in Portugal, but they are very, very different. Let me show you some of the things that makes them different. If we start with the first one, this is an example of a jacket that I would produce in Portugal if I could. It's nice, it's a simple cotton twill, it's not complicated at all. It doesn't have any lining inside, and it's done actually more or less like a shirt, so it's quite simple. The next jacket is a bit more advanced, not a lot. It's a wool jacket, still a jacket that you can do in Portugal for a good price, meaning that you can also have a low quantity that you need to order because it is from Portugal. With this jacket, it's different because you have the lining. Here's a cotton lining. In the sleeves, you have a polyester lining. It just makes it easier to wear. Again, nice detail with the trim, labeling, and pockets. Good item as well to do in Portugal. This jacket is what I would call a nylon windbreaker. It's made in Portugal and it's a very nice jacket, but it's actually not a jacket that you would normally do in Portugal. The reason why this brand is doing this jacket in Portugal is because they're doing everything else in Portugal, so it makes sense. Another thing is that because of the quantities, Portugal do less quantities than they do in the Far East. So even though this jacket would have made sense to do in the Far East, in this case it doesn't, because the quantities they have to order is a lot higher, even though the price is less. I would say that is a good example of sometimes it makes sense to put your production together in one place. Because if they should have all these products made in different countries, it would be a nightmare. Now they have everything made in Portugal, and then maybe you can say that they compromise a bit on this one style. That's it for the last product groups, jackets. I hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time.